How are we doing? Today we are going to be talking all about why men pull away. I'm going to give you 3 reasons. And then what to do or what not to do about it and what to do about it. The do's and the don'ts, because this is so common. So freaking common. You have no idea. I hear it a lot inside of Unravel. I hear it a lot inside of, Alchemy of Love and different programs and one-on-ones. Like, this is one of those things. It is actually quite normal. Because men do this thing where they come in hot and heavy in the beginning. That's the sexy masculine thing. They come in hot and heavy. And then things fizzle out. And it's like they kind of get their head straight a little bit and they pull away. But the thing that happens to us is we freak out. And we feel like it means something that is wrong with us. And so I want to walk through the truth of this. I want to walk through what you need to know, what's going on here, how to not make this about you, and how to respond from a grounded, regulated space, which is ultimately gonna lead to the relationship and the thing that you want. But I want to break this down. So the what, the why, the how, all the kind of things for when men pull away. And so, I see this happen when it's like you finally let them in. You're so open. It's a little slow burn. It's whatever. You finally let him in. It's been like 1-2 months. I can think of a specific client that came to me about this, where it was like, it's 2 months in, it's good. It's hot. It's heavy. You're finally open to him. You're in, it's good. It's good. And he comes in with, I need space. And the thing that he tells her is, life is just kind of getting ahead of me right now, and I'm a little bit busy with work, and this is happening, and I can't give you the attention that you want. Maybe you've had this happen. And this thing happens inside. And I remember when we were talking and she's like, I'm anxious. Like, I want to do this. I want to do that. What do I do? And thank goodness for the spaces that we have, because this is why I love, how Unravel is, or Alchemy of Love, where we have these live chats for when this stuff happens. So you don't just react, because our prefrontal cortex just kind of turns offline, right? And so when this happens, obviously she's devastated. Obviously she felt close to this person, so she's upset. But to avoid making the common mistakes, I started to explain these things to her. Why does this happen? Very common things that happen in relationship. Like, we as women, we have spaces to go to with our fears, with our, worries, with our things. Like, I was listening to an interview yesterday with Lewis Howes, and he was talking about a workshop that he was running where he asked the women in the crowd to raise their hand of like, how often, at least one time a week, do you have a friend that you can drink wine with, that you can talk about things with, that you can communicate with, that you can do these things with? And they everyone in the crowd raise their hand. They're like, do you do this every day? And it's like, yes, it's like a girlfriend, or your mom, or something like that. Like, you can talk about your insecurities. You can talk about your body image issues. You can talk about your issues with sex. You can talk about, your mental health stuff. Like, that is a very common thing we do. We have wine nights. And then he asked, where he was like, okay, so for men, do you do this once a month? And he was talking about it, and he's like, the men would, only a handful of men raised their hand. And then he asked, he's like, is it part of a church group or something that you do, like a men's circle and that? And they're like, yes. And they laughed. Most men. And then he's like, how many of you do this a year? And hardly any of the men raise their hand. And imagine that. Imagine if you didn't have a place to turn to. And as relationships do, they bring out these shadows, they bring out these insecurities, especially when it starts to get hot and heavy. And I'm not making excuses for this push-pull, whatever, emotional unavailability thing. But when you come to this thing, you're in partnership and someone pulls away, it is totally normal, because it's that masculine, it's that sexy thing about the masculine, that they come in, it's hot, it's heavy, it's passionate, and then all of a sudden it's serious, and it's like, oh my goodness, I'm a little bit afraid. And so when they need space, it's oftentimes, and what I've seen from studying the books and the things, and listening to men and hearing their complaints and hearing these things that happen, is they need space to process their emotion. That's number one of the reasons. It's this fear of commitment. It's this, and it doesn't mean the relationship is bad, but it's scary. especially if you've been hurt in the past and then this other relationship comes in and you haven't had space to process it, because that's our modern freaking dating age. But it's like, oh, like I haven't had space. So it's like, whoa, this is hot and heavy. And then all of a sudden it's like, let me actually pull back. Let me, I don't know, blame it on work, or let me, it's like, it's actually this fear that's making them pull back. And that's okay. Right? It's giving space to that. It's understanding it. I'll get into the don'ts, but like, don't coach your man on this, right? Okay. And so the other thing is, in the beginning of dating, it's very common that, it's this fear of intimacy is a very big one as well. You guys have heard me say this often on this podcast, is there's no shortage of people to date. There really isn't. There's shortage of vulnerability. There's shortage of, there's shortage of opening up. Like, the thing that I can always see, even in dating and what have you, is like, I always get to like, they never ask me on the third date, or da-da-da-da-da. Like, it doesn't go beyond that. It's usually because there's something that's blocked. You're not being vulnerable. You're not opening yourself up. This is that piece. We all fear intimacy nowadays, because it's vulnerable and it's scary, and especially as a high achiever and an ambitious human being, which I'm sure you're drawing in men that are like that as well. That's scary. It really is. And we just kind of have to own that. And it's okay that, it's very common that it's like, I'm afraid of getting hurt. I'm afraid of this not working out. I'm afraid of just emotional intimacy, especially for men that weren't taught this. So it's normal that if that's something that they pull away, this is, it's these practices, and it's for us to emotionally regulate around that. That's why I created Alchemy of Love. But it is this space where it's like, okay, sometimes they pull away because that fear of intimacy is so freaking real. And that goes with the number one. And the second one that I want to talk about is that, they pull away to process their own stress with work, or if the relationship is coming in too strong, which, again, that's a very masculine thing, right? It is true, if a man doesn't have his purpose and his vision and his things, and this relationship comes in and it starts to go against his work and his mission in life and his purpose, he's actually not going to be able to pay attention to you in the way that he wants. And so that can be being highlighted right now in the relationship. And that doesn't mean you wait. That doesn't mean you shrink yourself. It's, again, a big part of dating in life is understanding the male psyche. This is why there's modules inside of it, inside of Alchemy of Love, because, his way of pulling this work and what have you, and this is what I saw with my client, where she brought this in, where he says he needs to focus on work and do these kind of things. It's a way for men to exhibit their control over certain situations. And if things came in hot and heavy, and if things were like this, and then they pull away and they blame it on work and they do these things, it's them trying to regain control. Which is perfect. Like, they're allowed to do that. That's okay. They're recalibrating their nervous systems to being in their purpose, because ultimately you want a man that's in his purpose anyways. You want a man that isn't sitting on the couch eating bonbons, playing video games, doing the thing. You want someone that's aligned with their purpose. But when we're in our wounded feminine, we like kind of get insecure about the thing about not being a priority, and we pull it away, and we come from this feminine pain body where it's like there isn't actually this balance for them in relationship. And it gets to be a little bit tough. And so they kind of try and pull it back to gain control with the phrases, I need space, right? And this can be at any stage this happens. This is a very common one. I need to focus on work. Because mission and purpose for men, it is always going to come before you. But when that's in alignment, you will never feel like you're not a priority, but it will always come first. It will. And that's the sexy thing about the masculine. That's the thing we love about it. So just letting that be. And then the one that is kind of hard to swallow, the third reason why men pull away, they're not sure about the relationship. And that sucks, but that can stem from, they don't have the communication skills that we have. Again, we have wine nights where we can talk about this stuff and we can come in and we feel comfortable, but like one of the hardest thing for men to say is no. It's so hard. They don't want to say no to you. They really don't. And so if they've gotten to this state where it feels like, oh my God, I've been people pleasing, it's hot and heavy, like lack of communication, which is, yes, that's their journey and it's not your job to coach them on that. But they pull away because they haven't set the foundation in the way that they want it. Right? And because it maybe has gone too far or something like that, it's just like, okay, then I'm just going to withdraw. And we see this where it's like, also if you are too eager, which, hello, anxious attachment, that was me. It's like, if you're too eager and too invested in all these kind of things, and this isn't a playing games thing, it's you match the male fire in the beginning, and we do that. I know I did this a lot in my relationships. I know the client that I'm talking about, that is what she did. It's like they're hot and heavy in the beginning, and so you match their energy and you come at it with the tenacity because you are also that type of person. This messes with the polarity of the relationship. Men like to hunt, men like to chase, that is their brains. Right? This is something that is very, very important to understand when it comes to dating, especially in the early stages of dating. But this isn't always thing. This isn't always thing. And so those are the three things that I see mostly, since talking to men, being in the spaces and all that kind of thing. The three reasons they pull away is they need time to process their emotions. That's fine. The fear of intimacy, the commitment, the things like that is a very normal thing. They don't sit around having wine nights with their men, with their boys. I mean, maybe some do. I'm not going to speak for all men, but majority, that's not a very common thing to be attached to their emotions. And you guys know, in relationships, shadows come out and you're like, oh, it's scary. The second one is work and balance. And sometimes things were too hot and heavy, and, they just want to regain their independence and regain their control and sense of self. And so they pull away because they feel like they may have lost that in the relationship. And the third one is it might not be the relationship that they want, or they might have realized they're not ready for a relationship. And those are the ones that are kind of scary because we're like, ugh, what does that mean about me? And it starts to play into these abandonment wounds, and it's like, I'm being suffocated by this woman, I can't do this, they're so eager and I'm not sure, and like that is definitely a thing that I had in my past as well. I was definitely that type of person that was like, you love me, you want to do this? I mean, y'all, like, I did this for a while. It's like, that's how I ended up in Asia. I met a guy and I was like, whoa. That's how I ended up in Texas. I met a guy and I was like, whoa. And it was like, all right, baby girl, settle down and stop matching their intensity. Like, your thing as a feminine essence, a feminine being, is the slow burn, baby. It is the slow burn, and that is your gift. That is your art. And that comes from regulating yourself. That comes from alchemizing your own love. This is exactly what we do inside that program. So what not to do in these situations. And, you're going to be human. You're going to have these things. You're going to, it is normal. It is very freaking normal. But don't go crazy. Don't do it. Breathe. The first thing is, don't break down in front of him. And this one is so hard. Like, the amount of times there hasn't been that many. I'm going to give myself some credit there. But like, when things have happened and I hadn't yet regulated my nervous system or understood, like, I am the most rare and valuable thing on this planet, all the kind of things, it's like the breakdown. And I remember when this client came to this space and she like said, she's like, oh, this like wanting to chase, like, I'm trying to keep it together and but men don't know what to do with the feminine pain body. This is why Alchemy of Love is such a fucking gift to this planet, because you learn about your feminine pain body and what's coming up right now, which is the rejection wound, the betrayal wound, the abandonment wound, all these kind of things. And so you're just kind of flubbering because you don't know how to respond. And oftentimes, this is what happens. You do these things and you talk really fast and you say these things, and then you get to the other side and you're like, what even came out of my mouth? Like, what was I even doing? It's very common in anxious attachment. And so it's normal that, your energy is like leaving your body and you feel shut down and you're like, I am so emotionally unstable right now. Like, I have no idea what's going on. But the best thing you can do is walk away. Like, and we'll get to the things that you can do and the things that you should do and the things to walk yourself through, but do not, like, try your hardest not to break down in front of them. Simply just, okay. If that's okay. Like, if that's what you freaking want. idiot. I'm the most rare and valuable thing, but if that's the thing that you want, okay. And when you do the work, when you alchemize your love, you're able to do that because yes, you've sat with your past at this point, that these wounds of rejection, abandonment, betrayal, all this kind of stuff, they're not being infused. They're not being in this element. And again, going back to men don't know what to do with your feminine pain body. And what I mean by feminine pain body is you're reacting from a trigger. You're reacting from the pains of your past. You're not reacting from the present moment. You're not reacting from your higher self. You're reacting from this younger wounded part of yourself. They don't know what to do with that because they're not tapped into that. That's not a thing. Men are really, they get one emotion and that's anger. We're seeing more of a conscious man awakening. I see you guys. We love you. But a lot of men, I'm not going to say most even, a lot of men, they don't have the emotion, so they don't know what to do with it. So you breaking down in front of him is just you solidifying in his head, this is exactly my point. This is why I need space. This, because he's already pulling away, right? He's already he's looking in the boat and he sees all the holes and he's like, there's a hole, here's a hole, here's more holes, here's all the things. And instead of solution oriented, it's just pulling. It's just this repellent. And the other thing is, do not beg a man to stay, right? Do not beg, do not chase. Anything you chase in life is in masculine. Anything, it's totally normal. It's very normal. I have a reel on this where I was like, in the beginning, I was like, okay, I will now that I'm regulating things, I'm like, I'll give you 2 weeks. I'll give you 2 frickin' weeks. If that's your thing, because I know you don't have the tools, all the kind of stuff, I give you permission. But old me, it's like chasing, trying to convince, trying to do, trying to beg. We can get through this. We can do it. It's like begging them. And that's not the best word, and I freaking get it, but you know what I'm talking about. When someone pulls away, you're begging them to be with you. You're like, no, don't leave me. Stay with me. I'm cute. Look at me. We do this. We do, and we chase, and all that does is repel. In relationship, there is a chaser and a runner. Which one are you? And in order for the runner to stop running, the chaser has to stop chasing. It's the only way. It's the only way. And so that is up to you. You do not beg a man ever. Ever, ever, ever. You do not do that. It is just a huge repellent. It's learning how to breathe. It's getting into your body. It's doing these things. Give them time to process. Give them time to process and come back into your body. And we're going to get into the do's, but right now we're in the don'ts. And I keep getting ahead of myself. But if you think about a rubber band, right? In this chasing, in this begging, it's if the rubber band, they talk about this, and men are from Mars and women are from Venus. If the rubber band pulls so far, it'll come back. It'll come back if you give them space. They need space. They process so much different than we do, right? And it doesn't even mean processing all the time. They just need to go breathe and regulate. It could be going playing video games. It doesn't need to be them journaling and doing the things that we do. But if we pull and we keep pulling and we keep, you chasing is them pulling, the rubber band snaps. And again, it solidifies in their head. See, this is exactly why I need space. And the last one. Do not coach your man. It is hard when you are a high achiever and you are in these spaces and you're doing the programs and you listen to podcasts like these and you do programs like Alchemy of Love and you read the books and you know about attachment styles. It is so hard to not want to coach them, because that's after. That is literally the next instinct after begging and pleading and crying and doing the things. It's I'm going to coach you through this. I'm going to show you, what fears are getting in the way of us. What are you, let's talk about what's happening. What are you afraid of? What's going on with your job right now? Let's try and do these things. Coaching is so masculine. My job, masculine. I can do it in a feminine way, yes. But coaching is leaning in, fixing it energy. Fixing it energy is masculine energy. And so when they pull away and you're doing this thing, it's okay, come here and grab your journal. Let's sit down. What is this? It's this convincing energy. Women, we are so sneaky, we don't even realize that we're manipulating in this situation. Because at the end of the day, you're human, you're man. needs to choose you out of his own choosing, not you coaching him and, needing whatever. Like, if he's taking space, if he chooses to take space, coming back is his own choice. And it needs to be. If he wants coaching, he can go get that. There are plenty of resources. He will find it himself if that's the thing. But if you're sitting there going, unless he comes to you of like, hey, and that's the difference, right? There's a difference between you just bringing in, he's like, I have to focus on work. You're like, talk to me about how work is getting in the way of this relationship, and let's, kind of be solution oriented, and, what are you afraid of with your job right now so that we can start to work through this? And he didn't invite himself to that conversation. If he sat you down and was like, baby, I am feeling really stressed with my job right now, and I want to be able to I want you to feel like a priority in this relationship, but I also need to focus on this. Let's have a conversation. That is a different vibe than I need space. That is not a conversation. That is him telling you what he needs. And the biggest thing here is he's not a bad person for wanting that. I really like a big emphasis of this because I see this a lot in my friend groups. I see this a lot on the internet. I see this, people going, fuck that guy. He can't commit. Like, no. People are allowed their insecurities and their processes and their fears. People are allowed to take their space and to go and to explore themselves, and especially in relationship when it's like the ayahuasca journey of your freaking life is relationships. They are allowed that. So can you give them the freedom to do that? They're just like us. They have insecurities. Just like us, they have fears. Just like us, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. No one does. So that doesn't mean that they're douchebags and they're wrong. It's okay if they need space. Honestly, it's an invitation. You probably do too. Like, it's so, don't disrespect men like that just because they're not claiming you right away. Like, no, this is why our problem with men is like we're shaming them for when they do need to take space and do things. It's not blaming them. It's just noticing, right? It's also not writing a permission slip and waiting for them and doing the things. It's just noticing. And this is why it's so important to do your own regulation, your own alchemy work, which is alchemy of love, right? So what do you do? Because it's hot, it's heavy, it's passionate, and then all of a sudden they pull away and you're like, I am a scared little kitten right now, and I'm usually a very powerful woman, and all of a sudden I can't really focus on my work because I'm thinking about this, and is he going to text me? Is he going to call me? What did I do wrong? I never lose. And now I feel like I'm losing, and this is really hard on my nervous system. And you're not being able to focus on work and doing these things. I feel you. It's exactly what we talked about with this client. We came in and it's like, okay, let's break this down. What are within your control? What are your controllables? Right? Like, we cannot control other people. We have to surrender to the fact and let go of the fact and look at these things and not being responsive from our past, but just looking at it and going, okay, like, I trust you. You're a fucking brilliant man. I chose you. That's why I've been with you for this last month, 2 months, 3 months. I trust you in your decision making. Go and do what you have to do, but I'm going to do what I need to do and what I can control, right? And also, if you do want to take this a step further, I do highly, highly recommend Alchemy of Love. Alchemy of Love, Alchemy of Love. I cannot preach it enough. Alchemy of Love is where you want to plant your butt so that you can actually start to call in relationships and hold space for yourself in these moments and be this like love magnet for high value people. And it doesn't mean if someone needs space that they're not high value. It just is because when you can truly understand yourself, you understand everyone. That is your art, right? And so what do you need to do, right? When he comes to you and he's like, baby, I need space right now. I need to focus on work. I need to do the thing, da, 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 da. You need space. Here's what the first thing you do. Okay. You know what? Take all the space that you need. Anyone with anxious attachment, like their insides are like, ugh, rejection wound, abandonment wound. Ugh. Why is this so important? Because you should never convince a man to be in relationship with you. You should never have to manipulate a man to be in relationship. You never have to convince or show, like, proving your value. You don't have to do that. That is not what you are on this planet to do. So if someone says they need space, the hardest thing, and it's going to feel like your throat is like clenching around, and it's going to give you heart palpitations, but you're a good student, and I freaking know it, just like my client was. And you're going to say, okay, go take your space then. Go ahead. And it's not in this like sad, like it is literally, if you can come, the best thing about being a heart open, alchemized woman is you do everything with love. And it's not about putting more and stacking more and closing your heart off and being more in this I'm not worthy thing. It's sitting here and just being like, okay, like you're a brilliant human being and I don't really want to be with anyone that isn't fully sure about me. So go ahead, and you do it in love, not in like this bitchy fuck you. Like it is genuinely like, you're a brilliant human being. I trust your decision making. If I didn't trust your decision making, I wouldn't have spent all this time with you. So if you feel like you need space right now, okay. I'm not going to wait. I'm not going to do anything. But I trust you. And I want you to make the best decision for you, because regardless of if you come back and you do the things, I still want you to be fucking happy. And I want us to get to that point where it's like, just because someone doesn't choose you or want to be with you or need space doesn't make them wrong. It is just something going, okay. And so what can you do? You work on your feminine pain body. He must come to the decision that he wants you on his own. And so you that may be feeling this rejection and this betrayal and this part that's coming up, that is your work. We're going to get into that. But the first thing first is just going, okay. And he might come back and be like, really? You're just like, okay with that? And you're just like, yeah, I trust you. Go do your thing. There is so much strength in your silence. So much. So go. Don't convince. Don't chase. Don't plead. Don't beg. Just be okay. Mate, it is the hardest thing you're ever going to do, and I get it. That's why we have spaces to go talk to it. But in front of him, that is what you do. Okay. It is so empowered, and that is literally how my client felt. She's like, that feels so good. It feels so good. Because it's coming from a space of I love myself and I respect myself and I'm no longer chasing anyone's love and I'm no longer proving my worth to anyone. Okay, that is an empowered choice to move into this space with, right? And so after that, then you regulate yourself. You take the space to do and accept your feelings, because here's what's going to happen. You're going to feel empowered as fuck. You're going to feel so empowered. And then the next day, you're going to be like, oh shit. And your heart's going to hurt, and you're going to want to text them, and you're going to want to prove something, and you're going to want to say something, and you're going to want to coach them, and you're going to want to do everything. And the thing is, you accept all of those feelings, but you do not act on them. First and foremost, you accept the fact that they decided to go the route that they did. You do not chase, you don't do anything. And then you accept the fact that you are a freaking human. And it's okay that you miss them. And it's okay that it's bringing up these emotions. And it's okay that the first day you're like empowered and you're like making TikToks about how you're an empowered woman or whatever. And then the next day you're like, I feel like a potato and I'm eating ice cream with a fork on my couch. Perfect. That means you're human. That means you felt something and that you actually cared about this human being. Accept your feelings. They're so real. Nurture yourself with love. What do you need right now? How can you pay attention to yourself? How can you love yourself right now? There's no need to rush anything. There's no need to like get someone next first. Like, it is just taking care of yourself. Yes, it was maybe a month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever, but it mattered to you. And I know it did, just like it did with my client. So, it was processing these emotions with her. It was really looking at this. It was regulating her emotions in the feminine pay body. It was looking at the father wound and the abandonment wound and the rejection wounds and all the things, right? Like in Alchemy of Love, this is what we do. And then you neutralize that, and it doesn't take as much as a huge breakup because it wasn't that long, but it's like, oh, I got me no matter what. You heal it, you feel it, and then you finally move into this space of, well, I'm going to open myself back up. I'm going to get back on the apps. I'm going to go to coffee shops and I flirt with some strangers. I'm going to open my heart again. Because that's the only thing, like, we can close it for a bit, but it's not, like, I highly don't recommend it. Like, you can even have heartbreak with an open heart. Like, it is that art when you can sit there and go, okay, now I am ready to, if he, I have it tattooed on my arm. I say this all the time. It's like, if not this, something better. You're either the one or you're the one that got away, as one of my mentors says. Like, this is the core belief. And so when you can tap back into that and you're no longer trying to mask the abandonment wounds or rejection wounds that came up, then you're ready to open yourself back up again and get your booty back out there and your tush, and you're there to find the love of your life. It's you're giving yourself this time, and then you're open. again, we do not close because of these bruised hearts and these things. We open, right? This is the gift. This is the thing. And so then we move into the space of just having this self-love and this compassion and this art and this understanding. If they pull away, that it means nothing about you and your worth or who you are or any of that. It's just an invitation to see what came up in this moment. And how can I give myself some compassion in that? How can I feel what's going on in my body without making it right or wrong and just witnessing it? So that when that next person comes, you're not passing your junk off to them. You just know, and it's no longer this chasing and this begging and let me prove and let me do. And especially as a high achiever, with the anxious attachment, it is so common that we do that because we don't like to lose, right? We get back into the masculine, but the art of the feminine. And here's what always happens is when you learn to sit with your feelings, truly sit with them without distraction of work or self-development or things. When you truly learn to sit, you become a magnet for love. And so going through these steps, when I took my client through, she started to feel so in love with her life. Just like knowing that relationships are a choice and they'll come and they'll go and they'll things, and eventually that person is going to be your person, but you will never have to beg them. They may have to take space. A partner is going to have to take space often, especially men. They take space. Who are you in that moment? That's the thing that's so powerful. Either way, you are learning about yourself in this moment, whether it's this person or the next, you're learning about yourself, right? And so within a week or two, I believe, she was back on the apps, the Bumble, the League, the Hinge, the stuff. She started to enjoy her life again. And just like clockwork, guess who came back? And the big thing about this that I really want to land with you is we do not do this stuff to get them back. We don't. You truly release them from your body. This is why in Unravel we have cord cutting. This is why in Unravel we have heart coherence meditations. This is why we have womb massages. We have things that help get this stuck energy out of your body, because you really, if you're doing it from this space of I'm doing this so they come back, they never come back. When you genuinely are moving through in life, it doesn't matter if they do or they don't. Because you get to a place and it's just you, right? But in this story, this client, he came back, he apologized, he's fully committed to her. Now they're in a happy relationship. Because who she was, who you are in the moment of when your person pulls away can make or break your relationship. It's either you make it mean something about you or you let it be an invitation for you. That is the journey here. And when you can hold yourself to this degree of knowing you are rare and valuable, and no one has to be convinced to be with you, no one has to be chased, no one has to be begged or pleaded, you set a new caliber and a new standard for the people that are coming into your life, that are fully yours and fully committed to you. And it's okay if they take the space. It's a rubber band. It's a rubber band. As long as it doesn't snap because of who you are, everything changes. And so to this day, this client is in a happy and healthy relationship with this person, and that makes me very happy. And it really is wild how this happens, right? Because it's who you are in those moments that make this. Who you are in the moment of conflict, when you can really alchemize the love and show up as your full self and all these kind of things. And so if this story of this client inspired you, if you're in that space of, wanting to learn how to be better in the void and how to really alchemize your love and how to shift your relational patterns so that you can show up as this force to keep that power, because I know you have so much success in every other area of your life where it's like, this is that part where it's like, you wobble. So you maybe shut it out because you don't like to wobble, or but you want it, you crave it, you want that soulmate, you want that teammate, you want that person. We have Unravel. That is our monthly membership. You have access to trainings and support and the daily vitamins and things like that. We have Alchemy of Love, which is our full immersion 4-week somatic attachment therapy program. That is it's extraordinary. It's nothing like this on the internet. Or you can book in a consultation, to help kind of weave this out to see where you belong and how we can support you. You can book that in. And I will put all of that in the show notes. If this landed, take those sexy thumbs and write us a review. It really does help us the most. And then share this with someone. Let them know how this landed for you. Start a conversation with them. Be like, hey, I was thinking of you in this. This is how we get this word out there, and it really does impact the world. Our mission here is that we will change generational trauma from a relational lens for people that were not modeled healthy love, that you get to do it yourself. None of us were taught this, but you get to do it yourself so that your children and the people around you get to. And so when we share this and we get this out there, it really means the world to us. So thank you so freaking much. I love you, and I will see you in the next episode.